Good evening. Welcome to the show. My name is Madelyn Novick, and we have a guest with us today, Keith Brilliant. Keith is from Hope Pregnancy Center right here in Cheshire, Connecticut. And we're going to give him a chance to explain the services and the scope of what they do at the Hope Pregnancy Center. But first, I would like to tell you how I personally got involved in the center and sanctity of life in general, because I was not always committed. One day, I was asked by my pastor's wife to go to an all-women's retreat in Watch Hill, Rhode Island. And we each packed our bags and we drove up to Watch Hill. We were excited and very surprised to see a 7,000-foot mansion with 28 bedrooms and 7.5 fireplaces, and many different bedrooms for all of us to sleep. And it was here that we took a vow of silence for 48 hours. We were very close to the Atlantic Ocean, and there were a lot of woods and pine groves to walk through. So during the next 2 days, silently we all walked together and separately around the premises, or sat in the chapel, or went to the ocean. And on the way back from one of my walks, I was startled to hear my Heavenly Father speak to my heart quietly. He said, "Madelyn, remember how hurt you were when nobody was helping your Jewish families during the Holocaust and all those who died. But now, Madelyn, what are you doing for the 50 million babies who have died in this country during the silent American Holocaust?" I was really grieved, and I felt just terrible, and I knew the Lord was right. And he said, "Madelyn, I'm asking you and your friends to help the Catholics with the pro-life movement." So over the last 10 years, I have dedicated a part of my life to doing just that. And in the last year, he asked me to help Keith be an advocate for his center, and I'm very proud to have him here. He's a wonderful man and a great speaker, very animated, and a lot of fun to be with. Keith, would
Madelyn,
you like to tell us about your center?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hope Pregnancy Center, if I had to summarize it in one word, we offer free and confidential services to pregnant women and mothers with new babies as an alternative to abortion, just what you were talking about. Now, some of those services, I won't get into all of them, but some of them are pregnancy tests. Our pregnancy tests are free and the results are confidential. If two people come into the office, we will only tell the woman who's pregnant the results. We encourage her to tell her parents what the result is, but we just reveal it to the woman. There is no charge for the pregnancy test. We've been around for 32 years, and the pregnancy tests have always been accurate. If it says she's pregnant, she's pregnant. If it says that she's not, she's not. So we offer free and confidential pregnancy tests. Crisis intervention. If someone is pregnant and they weren't planning on it, our old brochure used to say expecting unexpectedly. And if they weren't planning on being pregnant and they are, it's a crisis for them. Doesn't matter how old or young they are. And we want to provide support for them. We want to help them as soon as they find out they're pregnant, all the way until the baby is born, and even afterwards if they need support after the baby's born. There is no charge for any of those services, and it's all done confidentially. We go over the options for pregnancy. We try to focus on having the baby, either raising the baby or making an adoption plan. We always emphasize adoption because adoption is a win-win-win situation. Let's say this is the baby, and I'm pregnant and I don't want to raise the baby, so I give the baby life, and then I give the baby to you, to someone else who doesn't have a child or wants more children. So I win because I don't have to raise the child wins because the child has life, and the person who adopts the baby also wins because they have a baby that they want to take care of. So we really try to emphasize adoption. Maternity homes. Many times when a young woman finds out that she's pregnant, either her mother or her father or both will sometimes kick her out of the home. So there's many times that a young woman needs a place to go. Now there's two kind of places they can go. If she's very young, 14, 15, 16, 17, if she's a minor, she has to go to a licensed, registered maternity home. There's not too many of those. But if she's 18 years old or older, an adult, she can go to anyone's home. Your home, my home, anyone's home can go for a short period of time. Sometimes it's just one night. Sometimes it's a week, a month, or the entire pregnancy. It depends on the situation. But we try to provide housing for the young women. A big thing we provide for them is maternity clothes. During the pregnancy, they need maternity clothes, but even more so is the baby clothes for after the baby's born. We keep a supply of real tiny clothes up to a year to make sure that they have everything that the baby needs. And any other baby items that you can think of, a crib, a high chair, a bassinet, car seat, anything that we can give that's in good condition, that will pass inspection, that's been donated to us, we will give to the young woman to help her baby and to help her as well. We also do medical, housing, and financial referrals. Many times they come to us, they don't have a doctor. So we want to make sure the first thing they do is go to an obstetrician, gynecologist, and be checked all through the pregnancy. That's very important for the health of the mother and the health of the baby. We talked about housing. The maternity homes are short-term, but we also try to find an apartment if they can, so they can make a long-term plan with a place to live for themselves and for their babies. And financial referrals. Many times they come to us, they have no money for food, clothing, housing, medical insurance. We try to work with them in all those areas, whether it's a local agency, a state agency, a federal program, or a private agency, to provide for all those needs. We make all those referrals. Again, everything I've talked about, always done free of charge and always done completely confidentially. We provide parenting education classes for the new mothers, to what to expect during the pregnancy, what to expect during labor, delivery, and actual birth, and what to expect after the baby's born. It's especially important for a first-time mother to learn.
So wonderful, Keith. Yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful program.
Yeah.
It's been around for 32 years.
My goodness, yeah.
Basically comfort. They come to us, they're uncomfortable, they're pregnant, they weren't planning on it. We want to comfort them and we want to encourage them to go through with the pregnancy, to have the baby, either raise the baby or, like we talked about, go ahead with an adoption plan. And we also want to provide support for the fathers. This is a relatively new program that we have. We have a gentleman that's with us that's on our board of directors, and he is meeting with the fathers, usually on a one-on-one basis, because he's part of this. He goes through the whole pregnancy with the woman. We want him to be prepared to be a father, again, especially if it's the first time.
May I ask
To
you
be,
a quick
please,
question?
you can ask anything.
I read a phrase that said that men are silent sufferers. What does that mean to you?
Okay, well, that means a couple of things. The first thing
Right.
that comes to mind, and I can remember, I don't see
Yeah.
all the clients, the daytime staff sees more than I do, but I remember sitting with a young woman and a young man, and she wanted to have an abortion. He did not want her to have the abortion, but he had no say. So he suffered in silence. He could not do anything about it. She made the decision. He could not. So they suffer. Women, I'm sure, suffered, I know they do, down the road, years down, but the men do as well. And it's silent because men don't express it. So
Men
that's
don't,
part of the idea of
yeah.
having the support for expectant fathers. That's just
That's
a capsulized,
special. That's wonderful.
and that's relatively new as well.
I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. And what makes some women committed to having the child when it isn't the most popular option these days?
Okay. Well, it's becoming more popular, which is a good thing.
Good.
There's so many reasons. We covered some of them before. Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's emotional, inconvenient, depending on the age and the position in life of the young woman. Would it interfere with school? Would it interfere with a career? There are so many reasons, but there are so many reasons to have the child. And as
What are
I said
those?
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
And
yeah.
again, the best one, if they're willing to have the child but not willing to raise the child, is to pursue the adoption procedure, because you've had the child, you've given life to the child, you no longer have the responsibility of raising and caring for the child for 18 years till adulthood. So the child is okay, you're okay, and someone who wants a child is okay. So,
Would the woman and the father ever have an opportunity to see the child once it's been adopted?
that's a great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's two types of adoption. There's closed
Yeah.
adoption and open adoption.
Oh, yes.
They both
Yeah.
exist. And a closed adoption, I believe, there's no contact after the adoption happens. But after, and my understanding of an open adoption is that the child maintains contact with at least the mother. I'm not sure about the father, but definitely maintains contact with the birth mother. And that's as long as the birth mother is willing and the adoptive mother is willing. They make an agreement as an open adoption. So yes, that the option is definitely there, either a closed adoption where there's no contact, or open adoption where there is continued contact for years.
That's comforting to know.
It is.
It is.
It is.
Do any of the women ever change their mind once they have stated they want adoption? Do they ever change their mind and decide to keep it?
Women have changed their mind all different directions. They've
Okay.
said they wanted to raise the child, then change their mind for adoption.
Yeah.
They've said they wanted to do an adoption and then change their mind. I guess after they have the baby and see the baby, they want to keep the baby and raise the baby. So it's gone both ways.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Are there any other services that you offer? Or
Those are the primary services, but
okay.
if I could, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the clients.
Yes,
So
I'd
you'll have
love
an
to hear
understanding of
about
who
it.
we help.
Yeah.
The age, the youngest client that I can remember us having, we've been around for 32 years, the youngest has been 14, the oldest has been 44. That's about the entire length of time a woman can have a baby normally. And so the average age comes out to be 21, which is about a junior in college. So about half of our clients are between 14 and 21, high school and college students, and the other half, between 21 and 44, are either finishing college or in a career. So we have a long, wide age span. We get them from all over the place, some from Cheshire. We get a little more from Southington, and we get a lot more from the Meriden area. We get them from other areas too, but in terms of who is seeing us tonight, primarily Cheshire, Southington, and a whole bunch more from the Meriden area. We ask them for a phone number at home. They don't want to give it because they might not want their family to know that they're pregnant. So we respect that. And now most of the young people have a cell phone, so we can contact them confidentially. Most of the women who come to us are single, but some women come to us who are married. And if you can picture a 44-year-old woman who may have grown children already, to her, being pregnant again may be a crisis. Some women are divorced. Most of them come in not knowing what they want to do. They mention abortion, they mention parenting, they mention adoption. They're thinking about all these things, but most of them really don't know what they want to do. They come in, they're pregnant, they want to talk about it, and we want to go over the options with them and steer them towards adoption or parenting the child. Now, you asked about the baby's father. Many times the baby's father is not involved, okay? He's usually a couple of years older than the woman, but many times he's not involved. That's why we're so excited with this support for expectant fathers. When they are involved, we want to draw them in, make them part of the process all through the pregnancy and the birth and the raising of the child. But many times they're not involved. Many times the baby's fathers are not employed, and that's a problem. We always ask the young woman if she uses drugs or alcohol. We're concerned for her. We're also concerned for the baby. And most of the time they say no, we're not sure that's always true. As a matter of fact, our very first client back in 1985, the mother was an alcoholic, the father was an alcoholic, and the baby was born with the fetal alcohol syndrome. That young woman is now 32 years old and maybe still living in the area, but that was our very first client, and alcohol was involved. We try to observe emotional stress in the woman. Some women are hysterical, they're crying, they're suicidal, and the other extreme is some women come in so nonchalant that today is Monday, I'm pregnant and it's no big deal, but it is a big deal. We tell them, if you're pregnant, your life is going to change forever. When you have this baby, if you raise this baby, your life has changed. If you have this baby and you make an adoption plan, your life has changed. So we try to tell them how important it is, how serious it is.
Where do you find the people who take the pregnant women in for a season?
That just comes out for the women that are 18 years or over. It just comes from the community, from the churches, from the temples, from the synagogues, people who are willing to open their homes. It doesn't come up too often, but when it does come up, we have a short list of people we can call upon, and if necessary, we would just put out a call to the churches, the synagogues, the temples in the area, see who would be willing to do that, try to arrange a meeting, and see how that would work out. We've done it a few times. Doesn't happen all the time.
That's touching. You know, I noticed you have a big trunk that I love on the porch of your old-fashioned house.
Yep.
And I encourage people to drop things in it.
Thank you.
And also, I noticed at my congregation, they had a shower for the unborn baby. I thought that was a wonderful charitable gift.
Yes.
How can we help you? What ways
There are so many ways to help us. The number one way is through volunteers. There are a few of us who are part-time paid staff, but we rely on volunteers. Like you yourself, volunteering for us is a huge help. So we need volunteers.
Yes.
We talked about the host homes for a short period of time. We mentioned donations into that bin on the porch of maternity clothes, baby clothes, cribs,
I tell
high chairs.
everybody I see.
Well, please keep telling them. Don't
Especially
stop.
the grandmothers now.
Good.
Right.
And even a huge thing for us is speaking engagement. This opportunity to talk to you and to talk to your audience is great. But if we have opportunity to go to a school or a college, a great place for us to go is to a church or a temple or a synagogue to speak to the people and tell them what we do. Any civic organization that people are part of. One time we were invited to a quilting class, and they made a quilt for us.
I love it. That's great.
A quilting class, and they gave us a quilt for one of the babies. Please.
But as a CNA, I've been to nursing homes where they, as a project, they knit gloves, mittens, hats, and blankets for these unborn
Well,
children.
tell them at the nursing home,
will.
tell them about
Yeah,
us, and
I
please,
will.
and they have to be little ones. They have to be for a year or older. After the bigger ones
right.
we can't use. Getting into the newspaper helps us because people read about us
Yeah.
and see us. Getting onto the radio helps us. And right here, this is one of our big things on our wish list, to be on TV so lots of people can see us. So those are some of the ways
really
that people
excited.
can help us.
Yeah, it's a joy to give.
Thank you.
And we have 10 minutes, so
Okay.
is there anything special you want to say? Can you tell me how you got involved in pro-life?
Well, I've been involved way back in 1985. I'm a social worker, and well, let me tell you how they formed Hope Pregnancy Center back in 1985. It was 3 women right here in town. You may know them. Penny Ellis, Jackie Copeland, Nancy Swift got together, and they formed Hope Pregnancy Center. And they asked me for a little help as a social worker. And we became incorporated in 1987, so we've been around 32 years, serving, I said, Cheshire, Southington, Meriden, all the surrounding towns, providing free and confidential services to pregnant women and mothers with new babies. I can tell you a little bit more about the women. Some of the women who come to us have been pregnant before. Some of them have never been pregnant before. And like I mentioned about the medical help, most of them don't have a doctor. They need a doctor for themselves during the pregnancy, and they need a pediatrician for the
how
baby.
do you resolve that situation?
Well, we find out where they live, what type of insurance they have, and then make some calls for them or have them make some calls. We try to have the young women involved. Exactly. That's what we are primarily, is a resource center. We want to give them ideas, we want to give them names, addresses, phone numbers. We'll help, we'll do our part, but we want them to do their part too, to become involved and responsible.
I notice your parking lot is all, you need a parking lot.
Well, we need a driveway. That's kind of an unusual request, but if someone has a business that does paving, right now it's sort of a gravelly thing, and today was a little bit wet, so there's a little bit of mud around. It's not good for the volunteers, the staff, and especially not too good for the clients. We don't want them to come in and getting all wet on the way. So that's a need that we have. The important thing we always ask when someone calls is, how did you hear about Hope Pregnancy Center? And I am hoping so much that after this program,
Yeah.
we're going to get a lot of calls, and I believe the website is up there too, or email.
Is your telephone number on there?
It should be 203-271-2703.
Good.
And I'm hoping right after this there's a big spike in the phone calls and more hits on the website just because of the exposure that we've been given here. We give them a pregnancy test. Sometimes they don't believe the result. They said, I know I'm pregnant, but this says negative. We'll give them a second test. Or sometimes
Why
they
is
see.
that?
I'm sorry?
Why do they believe something that's not?
Well, just they want to believe something, I guess. Either they
okay.
want to believe that they're not pregnant or that they are. Some will
right.
come and it'll say that they are pregnant. They say, no, it must be wrong. So we'll wait a
okay.
little short time and then another test.
Yeah.
So again, some of the needs we provide for them: clothing for themselves, but more so for the baby. Furniture. They need furniture for the baby's room. They need a crib, a high chair, a changing table, all these things. I can't think of them all, but anything that would go in a baby's room, someone could donate. That would help us out. And sometimes they need furniture for a whole apartment if they're getting an apartment. And we don't have it there, but we'll try to make some calls to churches and synagogues and temples and try to get some of those things. Make sure they have a doctor. Make sure they apply for the benefits that will be helpful to them. Again, like I said, it's municipal program, state, federal, or private program to get all the benefits they need for food, clothing, shelter, and medical assurance. We encourage them to take a prenatal class at the hospital. We try to determine which hospital you're going to have the baby at, check into the classes, and try to take so you know as much as possible about pregnancy, labor, and delivery, and then after the baby's born. Every person is unique. Every person comes to us with unique needs. So we try to help them. We listen to them and find out what they need, and we try to tailor how we help to them. I can make, if we have a minute, I can tell you some other ways.
Minutes.
Okay,
Yeah,
may I mention a
ahead.
couple of ways people can
Absolutely.
volunteer?
Yeah.
We need advocates like you
Thank you.
in other churches, you're welcome, and other temples and synagogues, so that we can go to these places and speak to the women's group, the youth group, the men's group, whatever type of organization is within a church or temple or synagogue. We want to speak to them. We don't care if it's a large group or a small group. We can take 5 minutes to do it. We can take, I've spoken.
Did you ever think of the Girl Scouts or just?
That's a great,
something
see, you're
like
coming up
that?
with ideas I'm
Yeah.
not thinking of. So that'll be our next attempt, see if the Girl Scouts. We have had, I think at one of the local pizza places, one of the Girl Scout troops did a baby shower for us.
Well,
I remember.
What I'm thinking. They're coming to where I live. They're in the community room.
Okay.
And I know all the projects we do.
Well, if you don't mind looking into that for
I'll
us,
do
that would
that.
be great. And because I remember one time, I was at a pizza place, and we went there, and the girls were having pizza, and they had things for us. They had diapers and all sorts. They had a baby shower with the Girl Scouts for us. I remember
love
that once.
resources and community, but you're the perfect person as a social worker. I also have a friend, and the Tech High School is building her house.
Wow.
And it barely costs anything. Now, this is where you could have your car done for maybe the labor is $10 an hour.
Wow.
And you have to wait longer, but they seem to do a good job.
Okay.
I'm thinking of contacting them
Please
to
do.
see about your driveway.
That's a good idea. I didn't think about that. That'd be
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
So many donations come in. Sometimes it's like Grand Central Station. I don't know if you've been there during the day. I know you've been there in the evening. People are coming in, bringing things. Clients are coming in, taking things out. The phone is ringing. Mail is coming in.
Do you have a bottle drive?
We do. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
Don't want to emphasize it too much, but that's one of the way we raise money is putting change into baby bottles. It really adds up.
Okay.
Anyone who has an idea about fundraising, we're always open to new ideas on that. We talked about helping the dads. We need office help as well. There's plenty of paperwork that has to be done, computer work and everything else. So whatever person's skills are, we can use them.
Can anybody have this work brought to them so they can do it at home? I know a lot of retired people or shut-ins that are always looking for something to do.
Well, that's a possibility because sometimes clothes have to be laundered, sometimes clothes have to be repaired. So I think that's within the realm of possibility. I'd sure be glad to deliver some things. If someone would wash them or repair them, that would be great. That's a good, again, a good idea.
Or be grandparents to them or something of that nature.
That would be great.
Okay.
Anyone who has computer skills can help us with that. Anyone who can fix anything. You mentioned the old house. The old houses need repair. Painting, repairing.
I love decorating, and I know a lot of people who do.
Well, come on in and see about decorating on the inside.
Yeah.
And again, they've had diaper drives for us. You mentioned the baby bottles. We have a board of directors. Anyone with any type of skill can help us. And they don't need a lot of time. Someone has an hour to give, we'll take the hour. Someone has 2 hours, we'll take it.
I think that's wonderful.
Well, if someone has an hour to give, that will help us for an hour. And whatever the skills are, there are so many.
That's a wonderful place
Thank you.
to give meaning to other people who are lonely and are not connected
Yes.
to a cause.
You mentioned the word lonely, and one of our tags was, you don't have to go it alone. I think a lot of times the young women feel they are alone, no one to help them and support them. We want to walk through it with them.
I think it's wonderful. I think they're very brave to go through with it.
They are.
It's a hard decision.
It is.
Yeah. I want to thank you all for listening to Keith, and if you take an interest and just want to stop by and see the facility, just to look at it. I love where all the baby clothes are, the small infant toddler things, and I'm thinking of sewing a few things myself. And anyone with a maternal instinct would just love to see it. It's a little playhouse. So stop by anytime. And we thank you for listening. And I think that would be the end of our broadcast now. Have a good evening, everybody. It's been a pleasure talking to you.